More notes from Washington and Rhode Island.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I'm calling it day 3 because it's the third day that life is kind of changed working wise for us. The building here is very quiet with limited personnel in it and all sorts of warnings for hand washing and the like, appropriately so. And on the radio side, same thing. The whole situation is shut down. People are working remotely, and it just feels like it's sane to talk about this as day 3, even though we've been revving up on this coronavirus for quite some time, and it looks like we're going to be on this thing for quite some time. Thank you for tuning in. I tell you in complete transparency about the timing of the show. We are looking at the clock right now. It's about 1:43 in the afternoon on this Wednesday as I'm preparing this show for you, and the crew is. And it's frustrating for us in a sense that we're trying to provide the latest updates for you, but we know that we are time limited in the sense that you see this show at 7:30 on My Right TV and Fox Providence at midnight, and things are happening hour to hour to hour. But Stacy and Kev and the crew are doing a great job in trying to keep us up to date with as much as we can. And just know that the show is not necessarily built for that breaking news stuff, but we're doing the best that we can in this trying time. Of course, we are guestless. Guests are not allowed in the building right now, and so it's just you and me and all of this production that we have, and there's a lot of information that we need to get to. Update at 1:45 from the governor's press conference today, and we'll play some of her video a little bit later. 33 cases now in Rhode Island, 10 more overnight, a couple of which may or may not be hospitalized. I have to get that data. I'm sure news has already provided you that data, so I don't want to speculate, but that's what we have at this point. The thrust of her press conference was on the educational protocols, and we'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. In the meantime, the president had his own briefing in late morning and began with this wonderful gem.
I'd like to begin by announcing some important developments in our war against the Chinese virus. We'll be invoking the Defense Production Act just in case we need it. In other words, I think you all know what it is, and it can do a lot of good things if we need it, and we will have it all completed, signing it in just a little while, right after I'm finished with this conference. I'll be signing it. It's prepared to go. So we will be invoking the Defense Production Act.
Okay, so that aside, this reference to the Chinese virus, I first saw it on Twitter today. He was tweeting that out kind of repetitively, trying to get it out of his system. I thought maybe he'll just tweet it a handful of times and whatever. Look, we believe, and it's pretty lock solid, that this virus began from an animal in Wuhan, China. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think everybody knows that. The president just seems to want to be able to find any way he can to be able to say, I got nothing to do with this. There are a lot of memes and actual recording edits that are out there right now chronicling the president's defiance of the reality of this being a problem for the country as little as a few weeks ago. And I think it's wearing on him. I think it's wearing on us that it's wearing on him. And while I thought he had a good day or so Monday and Tuesday, today I saw that tendency to deflect, defend, ignore anything that might have something to do with leadership, repercussions, his own responsibility. And I don't know what to say about that. We're all living in a different drama right now, and it doesn't feel constructive to even opine that the president is behaving irresponsibly. At the same time, it feels like a commiseration, you and me, and his polling numbers in terms of confidence to handle this crisis are not very high. Well, it's because of the way, in large part, he has articulated his thoughts on this whole thing. Now he's going to blame it on China. I hope that somebody pulls him aside and says, hey, boss, I know we're not supposed to say anything to you. I know we're not supposed to criticize you. I know we're never supposed to do anything but genuflect to you. And we'll continue to do that. But just want to remind you that the majority of prescription medicine, antibiotics, and all that kind of stuff in this category come from China. China is already acting out. We expect China to act out. China has been trying to blame this on American soldiers, meaning starting the virus, which we know is not true. China can and has discharged major journalists and journalistic entities in the last handful of days because they don't want the introspection, transparency, and criticism. And they control some significant supply lines here. Why he decides to jack this rhetoric up is beyond my wildest understanding, other than it's all about him and his insecurity and his need to defy and to punch back or to... So I would suggest that we also, not that I'm trying to pretend to be the mamby-pamby, liberal, feel-good, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is that Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, in broad, are going to suffer repercussions from this. We all know where it came from. I don't think we need to repeat it. So, as is the case normally in this presidency, don't let him lead by example, meaning don't follow his example. All right. In terms of the worldwide situation, here's the latest we had from the network.
France is one of the latest countries to enforce a total lockdown. Police in Paris set up checkpoints to stop all unnecessary travel amid the growing pandemic. In neighboring Italy, the epicenter of the European outbreak, another spike in deaths has brought the coronavirus death toll to more than 2,500. Spain is seeing a jump in new infections, even after a countrywide shutdown. Authorities confirmed nearly 1,000 new cases overnight. Desperate travelers are clogging European borders as they rush to get back home before borders are slammed shut to control the spread of the virus. This man says, it took us 3 hours to go 1 mile on the highway. It's catastrophic. Here in the UK, closures have extended to pubs, restaurants, and theaters, with businesses relying on the government to rescue them. The Prime Minister unveiled a $400 billion stimulus package.
We must act like any wartime government and do whatever it takes to support our economy.
As shops are forced to close down across Europe and the U.S., in China, a sharp drop in new coronavirus cases has people returning to malls and restaurants. In Thailand, a teacher is taking a unique approach to calm students' fears about the outbreak, dressing as Batman to spread awareness about the power people have to protect themselves. He says, like Batman, we need to fight this deadly disease with strength and awareness. And he hopes the music video will inspire people around the world to find courage in a time of uncertainty.
Well, it's nice to see that some folks, A, have a sense of humor, and B, are, thinking about the other side of this whole thing, which doesn't seem like it's any time near for us, any time being weeks, perhaps months. But that's a one-day-at-a-time thing. On the national scene and what's happening there, Governor Cuomo asked for a naval medical hospital, and he's getting it from the White House. The president authorized that, and it seems like there'll be one on the West Coast as well. That in an effort to, be in a place where they have enough beds and to deal with the overflow from the hospitals that are either happening or projected to happen pretty soon in New York. In the meantime, the economic stimulus that you saw there in the UK with the Prime Minister is certainly a conversation here. The number starts with the letter T for trillion. Here's Steve Mnuchin.
The payroll tax holiday would get people money over the next 6 to 8 months. We're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. And what we've heard from hardworking Americans, many companies have now shut down, whether it's bars or restaurants. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
Which is a good thing, I guess. I will tell you, though, that I have this, and again, I'm not an economist by any stretch, so just you and me commiserating here. I'm a little concerned about this because at some juncture, the Fed's going to be completely out of tools. We had a tax decrease that cost us some debt, and I'm not so sure that in retrospect that was the greatest thing we've ever seen. Again, being somewhat of a fiscal conservative, I was happy to see that the Republicans and Donald Trump came up with some kind of plan that accelerated the economy, but it certainly accelerated the debt. Now with 0% interest rates, I'm not so sure where we have anything to go, but you know what? Get it out there, flush the system, and I guess we'll deal with the debt later. As far as, I think I mentioned this to you, and Kev, I know we have a headline right above that little piece of audio right there on taxes and the tax extension. I think I might have mentioned this yesterday, and if I didn't, some relief for you. If you owe taxes come April 15th, you will be able to extend that for a 90-day period of time, meaning your tax payment won't be due till July 15th. So that gives you a little bit of breathing room. All right, so that's kind of an update there. There was a political race yesterday. There were a handful of primaries. Of course, Ohio canceled it. Joe Biden had a very solemn message after his victory yesterday. We'll talk about that. And we'll take a look at what's happening here in the state, the latest on the education efforts by the governor and the ed commissioner. All to come. Stay with us. So the Board of Elections last night, by a 6-1 count, voted to try to move the primary, the Democratic primary, from, well, primary day in general, right, from the April 28th date to early June, which is something that the Secretary of State doesn't like because she feels like there's little uptime between June and the general election. At the same time, all bets are off, and Nellie Gorbea is probably going to have to react to that. The governor seems to be open-minded. She's been asked by the Board of Elections to issue an executive order to move that primary. By the way, this show is ad lib. There's no teleprompter in this show, so we wing this. And I just reminded myself, as I kind of caught myself in my right eye and saw the monitor, that I'm wearing a green shirt. The whole staff didn't say anything to me about this yesterday. It was St. Paddy's Day yesterday, and I never even mentioned it on the show. As a 100% Irishman, I feel like I should apologize to everybody. Of course, St. Joseph's Day now, and we have to note the holidays. My sister sent me a text that my brother-in-law and his neighbor were social distancing, drinking shots of whiskey in the driveway last night. You like that one, Ken? Hey, listen, you got to keep it going. And speaking of that, not to digress, but again, we're informal here, right? I think it's a great idea to get outside. In general, but certainly as spring is coming, as we were finishing our walk last night, I said to my wife, can you imagine if this was the beginning of winter and the isolation doubled up with the cold? We'd be in trouble. But, just walking, we ran into two friends and or neighbors and had, lengthy conversations with them because I think everybody just wants a little bit of socialization with their social distancing. So get out, take a walk. If you haven't been doing that, plan on it tomorrow. And if there's somebody in the home somewhere, or in a home somewhere that who's elderly and kind of isolated, check in on them and see, what they need. Phones still work, use them. In the meantime, election board, yes, the politics are the issue of the day here. And we had a primary yesterday, and Joe Biden handily defeated Bernie Sanders, and this thing looks like it's wrapping up. Here's what the network had in terms of coverage for that.
Joe Biden swept the night, picking up all three states that held primaries yesterday. According to CBS projections, the former vice president won Florida, Illinois, and Arizona. At the end of the night, Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders both live-streamed messages to voters, stressing the importance of leadership during this current health and economic crisis.
Tackling this pandemic is a national emergency, akin to fighting a war.
In this moment of crisis, it is imperative that we stand together.
Voters in all three states experienced a unique but necessary extra step or two when heading to the polls Tuesday.
They squirted our hand with antiseptic when we went in, squirted it when we went out.
The election supervisor in Palm Beach County said several voting sites had to be moved and others opened late after workers didn't show up.
We had a lot of people who had to call out sick again or just weren't able to make it.
Similar problems plagued Arizona and Illinois.
I was surprised that Illinois decided not to cancel, but I also think that it's important to vote.
Ohio was supposed to be the fourth state to hold a primary yesterday. In-person voting was postponed until June after the declaration of a health emergency.
You know, it's going to be really interesting to see when Bernie Sanders finally says uncle here. It's not a casual thing. He's got a movement of really a considerable amount of young people in this country who believe in what he says and in his issues. And he is doing everything he can to influence Joe Biden to take on his very progressive agenda, including Medicare for all and debt relief and all that kind of a thing. How much Joe Biden can concede or agree to is probably conditional at best, but there's no question that Joe Biden becomes a much stronger candidate the less he has to fight with Bernie Sanders, the less that, I mean, compete. They really haven't been fighting, but compete. The resources that are going to be, inevitably drying up here, as resources are drying up everywhere for everything, are got to be a consideration for Biden and Sanders to get together and agree that it's time to end this thing. Because otherwise, no matter what you think about the job that he's doing, the president and his incumbency remains ever the more powerful. So somewhere along the line, those guys have got to figure out what they can agree to, and Bernie Sanders needs to do as he's promised he will do, and that's kind of fall in line here, for Democrat victory in November, if that's what he says is the top priority. When we come back, we'll take a look at what's happening here in Rhode Island, what the governor has recently said today on matters of education and the like. Stay tuned.
We are now at 33 cases of coronavirus. We've had 10 new cases since our last press conference. We have made a decision, and that decision is that for the next 2 weeks, from Monday, March 23rd through Friday, April 3rd, will be distance learning weeks here in the state of Rhode Island.
And you gotta give the governor credit. She's providing incremental planning here, right? I think that the governor has really done a good job on staying on top of this. She has, made her pleased, the federal government, via some national platforms. She was on CNN last night. We ran that on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRO. The messaging has been, short term. In the same breath, she talks about this thing being a challenge for perhaps months. And so I think we all kind of take with a grain of salt the idea that this distance learning thing will go on through April 3rd. That is, minimally until April 3rd. If anybody was scoring at home and taking some bets, I would guess that there is a good chance, just my thought, and nothing formal, but my instinct is that we very well could be running right through April and, God forbid, finishing off the entire school year on a distance learning basis. The challenge for educators is, A, to get up to snuff on what that means. The collegiate professors have it pretty much knocked. My daughter took her series of classes. She's in grad school and, weeks away from graduation. She took her classes on Monday in her bedroom at the desk at our house, long distance, and I said, how did it go? And she said, Dad, it's just like being in the classroom. This technology is terrific. Everybody speaks, everybody can talk to each other, the learning's going on, it's fine. I think that technology is going to have to be advanced. Boy, I'll tell you, if you're looking at stocks, I would be looking at those kinds of companies, right? Don't even talk to me about the market today. It was good yesterday, not today. But I think that we've got to mentally condition ourselves to know that our kids are probably going to be at home longer than what these deadlines or up to deadlines call for. So in the meantime, as parents, I think we have to be sharp to enforce this distance learning, to dig down, create some discipline in the house and make sure that they are doing what they need to be doing Because at the end of the day, we can't fall down completely in terms of our educational performance here or Massachusetts or anywhere in this country, right? So that's that. And then there is the challenge of economy. This is Takeout Wednesday. It was proclaimed yesterday by the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. Dale Venturini, who heads that organization, spoke to my friend Matt Allen on WPRO yesterday. Here's some edited comments about the challenges the industry is facing.
Yes, we did talk with the governor's office. We had a very extensive board of directors meeting on Sunday. Virtual one, by the way, because of social distancing. There was conversations, long conversations, but at the end of the day, and I will tell you, emotional conversations, because you mentioned livelihoods, you mentioned small business, and we have a lot of that. It was the right thing to do, to work with the governor. And then she did listen. She listened very well when we asked for at least takeout, delivery, curbside, and as long as we developed guidelines, which we did immediately in concert with Food Protection Office of the Rhode Island Department of Health on how to handle those guys, the takeout and doing different things so that we weren't having people congregate in long lines or in our facilities.
Is there a situation right now where people can find a list of places that are offering takeout and delivery? I've been asked that a couple of times. Is this just, find your favorite place and call them and ask?
And instead of us putting it in ours and putting it in different places, we've got those go-to places where you can go on to their website, which I will give you, and see what people are doing. Are they just doing delivery, doing curbside, are they doing pickup? Because some people don't even want to get out of their car, and I don't blame them, by the way. So that website is goprovidence.com. And if you're in Newport area in the Quinnipiac Island, it's discovernewport.org. I want to say a big resounding thank you. I want to let everybody know how much we appreciate their loyalty. I've been watching social media. It breaks my heart to see what's going on. But as an industry, well, we have I'm going back to that community word. Yeah. Let's get through this together, just as we always have.
Good thoughts. Again, that's Dale Venturini with Matt Allen on WPRO yesterday. All right, we'll come back and have a final few thoughts. I think Tom Brady is gone. Sorry, Kev. We'll be right back. I said yesterday, it's never over till it's over, right, with Tom Brady, but the momentum seems to be pretty serious that it's Tampa Bay, right? Here's a headline. Tampa Bay. It's almost like a safe landing place. It's in another conference. The Patriots don't play Tampa Bay next year.
They play them the year after.
They play them the year after, right. Kev's all over me. They play them. So Kev's all jacked up about the idea that, 20 months from now or so, the Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be playing. It's actually fun to think about 20 months from now. I can't wait for that game when things will feel oh so normal again, right? All right, you guys have a great night. Stay together, get some exercise, get outdoors, love your family. I'll talk to you tomorrow.